All right, welcome everyone. I'm Zoe Barsness, co-chair of the Provost Search and immediate past chair of the Faculty Senate. I very much appreciate you joining us today, as does the rest of the committee, both in person and remotely, to welcome our first Provost candidate to the University of Washington. As President Cauce says, choosing a provost will be the most important decision that she makes this year, and your engagement and feedback is critical. Today I have the privilege of introducing Dean Greg Washington. Gregory Washington is Professor of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering and the Stacy Nicholas Dean of Engineering at the University of California, Irvine's Henry Samwali School of Engineering. Dean Washington has been involved in multidisciplinary research for the last 20 years. His core area of interest lies in the area of dynamic systems, modeling, and control. During this time, he has been involved in the following applications: the design and control of mechanically actuated antennas, advanced control of machine tools, the design and control of hybrid electric vehicles, and structural position and vibration control with smart materials. He is internationally known for his research on ultra-lightweight structurally active antenna systems and other structures that involve the use of smart materials. Dean Washington is the author of more than 150 technical publications in journals, edited volumes, and conference proceedings. He received an NSF Career Grant, the Ohio State University Harrison Award for Excellence in Engineering Education and Research, 2 Best Paper Awards, one with his students, and numerous other awards. Dean Washington has served on several advisory boards in industry, government, and academia, including the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board, the National Science Foundation Engineering Advisory Board, and several boards. Please give a warm welcome to Dean Washington. It's our pleasure to have him here today.
How are you all doing today? Outstanding, outstanding. What is it they say about the bad weather here? It's just like California. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to address you all today and to talk to you a little bit about higher education challenges and, basically what I see at the University of Washington here. And first of all, I start this off by saying, look, you guys have done a lot of things right here. And as I look at the institution, as I look at all of the things that has been done here on this campus, it's actually quite humbling. Very, very high rankings by a number of academic programs. I list many of them here, so I won't go to them in significant detail. The university itself, rankings vary somewhere between 5 and 12 to 15 if you look at public institutions, and a whole host of rankings. There are many of them. We tend to take the ones that rate us highest, and those are the most important rankings, okay? But the institution has done extraordinarily well in those spaces, and that's because of the faculty and the students and the leadership that is here. And so, look, the fact that you would consider me and I can get to this point is actually a good thing. And so things have gone exceptionally well. When I received the prospectus and I was looking, and a couple of things jumped off the page at me. Number one, that the campus was, from a research perspective, considered, in terms of expenditures, one of the top 4 or 5 in the country. That's profound. Not something that I was expecting to see. The other one was a $5 billion campaign, which when I saw the $5 billion campaign, which is, it's not just one of the largest in the country, if not the largest. It's a phenomenal thing. And you can't have a great institution, you can't have a great university without having a great community supporting it. And that's what that $5 billion says. It doesn't just say you got a lot of money, so you shouldn't have any financial problems, which I think that's what that means, right? But actually, it says that there is a community of individuals that wholeheartedly support and believe in this place. And that's a great thing. And from that note, you all are to be commended. So who am I? Where do I come from? I actually grew up in this project in New York City. It's 130th Street and Broadway. Directly across from that now is the Nanotechnology Center from Columbia University. So this area is being regentrified at a significant rate, and it has moved all the way up from the 116th Street area, and Columbia is now into Harlem. They call it the Manhattanville campus, and I'm like, okay, have you been over to the Manhattanville projects across the street? And so I went to PS 129 there in New York City, and then moved to North Carolina and went to Enloe High School, and that's where I graduated from in North Carolina. And why would I put this here? Is because, you know, when you look at the communities and you look at the places that a provost, that a university leader will be engaged with, I can engage and speak to lots of different communities. I've grown up in communities where it didn't really have a whole lot, and I moved to communities where we've been very successful as a family. So I kind of know both sides of the aisle here. As I move into the meat of what I really want to talk to you about today, is that you will, and we will as institutions of higher education across the country, deal with tremendous challenges. I put these in terms of level 1 and level 2. And, you know, level 1 challenges, these have the ability to cause large, significant loss of life. They're level 1 challenges. They're climate change and energy security and cybersecurity and conflict, which is what we're dealing with a lot of today. And so those can eliminate our way of life in a significant way. And then you have level 2 challenges, which are problematic, disruptive to our way of life, may cause some loss of life. And these make up the quote unquote grand challenges. If I were to take a look at this community and take a look at this campus and say, which challenges do I see as being those that are affecting this community significantly? The ones here highlighted in gold, issues like climate change and energy security and cybersecurity and infectious disease and urbanization and aging infrastructure. These are things that I see in this community, and I see them in a significant way. Let me put it in context. Every other year, the American Society of Civil Engineers does a study. They look at the quality of your bridges, the dams, your highways, your roads. And that organization puts out a report card. The country overall got a D+ in its last rating last year. In Washington got a C, right? Not a very good grade in most cases. And so you ask, well, what are the issues? And so right now here, about 1 out of every 4 bridges and overpasses are structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. And what that means is that they can't carry the loads in which they were designed to carry. And so think about that on your way home. Just count them out. 1, 2, 3, can this be the one? And so that's just a snippet. There are others. In the essence of time, I don't have the time to go into all of them. But I will highlight that there's a significant homeless problem. And so poverty is a real issue in this area, and homelessness in particular is a significant issue. The population here has grown 38% since 1990. And you're talking, some will say somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 5,000 people per month. In terms, that's the growth here. Those challenges are only going to get worse. They're affecting the traffic. They're affecting everything around us. And so these are issues that will have to be dealt with. My philosophy is that where there are great issues and great challenges, that's the place for a large public institution. Part of what we do, part of our outcomes, part of our engagement, right? We have to be the institution that the community not only wants to be there, but that the community needs to be there, right? And all of that emanates from how we tackle the very, very big problems. And so my first fundamental question that guides me is, are we educating our students to solve the grand challenges of our day? Many of the research programs and the research profile of the faculty here are engaged in many of these areas. And so part of that large ranking, and part of that support means that the campus is already engaged and already focused there, right? We also have significant global competitors. This is Singapore in 1965. This is Singapore today. This is Shanghai in 1987. This is Shanghai today. These pictures were taken from the same exact vantage point, from the same spot at those particular points in time. And you see this dramatic change that's happening. And the fact of the matter is that the rest of the world catches up. And so the best global institutions, the best global entities have strong partnerships, relationships, and engagements with those entities that are abroad and lead, actually, in those frameworks. Already doing a lot of that here. I was very pleased to see what's going on with Tsinghua University in China. I have a number of partnerships with Tsinghua that I've developed myself. But the fundamental question here that we're asking is, are we educating our students to be globally competitive? And then we're dealing with unprecedented change. And look, I'm an engineer, and so fundamentally, we like to quantify everything. And so we look at years of 50 million users as a quantification for how fast change is happening. It took radio 38 years, television 13, cell phone 7, internet 4, took Facebook 2 years to get to 50 million people. How many in here have Facebook accounts? See by show of hands. It's a good percentage of the room. Facebook has somewhere in the neighborhood now of 1.8 billion monthly active users. That if you look at China, China has about 1.3 billion citizens, and the Chinese don't allow their citizens to have Facebook accounts. And so this is significant. What you also notice is that the speed of that change. So we're reaching that number and we're reaching it faster. And so not just the change, we don't just see change happening, the rate of change is happening faster. Let me put this in perspective. It took Pokemon Go 3 weeks. How many got Pokemon Go accounts? Well, I see a few people. I'm Team Valor. It's okay. And so what does that mean for an academic institution like this one? It means that half of the in-demand jobs in 2017 didn't exist in 2006. How many have a smartphone? The modern progenitor of the smartphone, the Apple iPhone, was invented in 2007. It just celebrated its 10th year anniversary. Before that, there were no apps. Wi-Fi was a misspelled word. 4G was a parking spot out in the lot over there. Those things just did not exist. And the point here is that now, for me, the thing I use my smartphone least for is a phone. I'm using it for everything else. So all of the jobs associated with that, they just were not here then. And we're seeing that the tremendous change and tremendous speed and change is impacting what our students do when they graduate. By the way, not all the individuals in this top 10 are engineers and computer scientists. It's arts, it's humanities, it's issues of social sciences. When I was growing up, this whole concept, I'm still struggling with this whole concept of cyberbullying. When I was growing up, we had real bullies, and they'd punch you in the nose. And I remember sitting with a kid telling him, look, I don't understand why this is a big issue. And he said, no, it's worse now. Not better, it's worse. I said, really? It's worse than getting punched in the nose? He said, yeah. He said, because when somebody says you get punched in the nose, that's it. It's over. Your nose might hurt for a week or two and then it's gone. But when somebody says something to you in cyberspace, it lasts forever. So there's a really different impact that it's having on our social structures and our norms in terms of how we engage and how we interact with one another. And technology now is not only a help, but it's also a competitor. We're seeing all sorts of changes and all sorts of impact that these entities are having on us today. And what we know is that somewhere in the neighborhood of about 47% of our current employment is at risk due to changes in technology. And again, look at those jobs. They're not necessarily technical jobs. They're jobs that run the full gamut and full spectrum of our existence. Conflict and protest is a significant issue as well today. And these are things that are all coming forward as issues that the modern 21st century university has to deal with, okay? I mean, look at this, what happened at a university campus just recently, just within the last couple of months. I mean, look, there's a face-off between white nationalists and Antifa individuals, and it looks almost like something from medieval times, right? As technology advances as we are today, individuals are facing off like that. Again, not for show, but for real. And so there are a host of challenges in front of us. But that being said, there are a host of opportunities. Look, in 5 years, you no longer need IDs, money, credit cards, store cards, business cards, photos, mail order mailman, paper or hardback books, bills and notices. Actually, you'll always have bills. They'll just be electronic, but they will be there. Steering wheels. The technology for driverless cars has been around literally for the last 15 years. I worked on one of the earliest driverless vehicles at Ohio State back in the 90s. And so that technology is now making its way to fruition today. Organs. At least 20 different universities across the country, including this one, are working on technologies that directly correlate to artificial organs, artificial limbs, artificial implants, okay? Many of which now are 3D printed, and the big challenge there is vascularization, right? And then finally for us, classrooms. We know that this is coming. It reached a tipping point about a year and a half ago. The way in which we teach and engage our students will change. And so all of these entities are impacting us in a significant way. And then there's CRISPR-Cas9 technology, which blows me away. A lot of this early research in this space was done at UC Irvine. And the idea, if you no longer have to deal with whether you want a boy or a girl, right? If you want a boy that's 6'5", runs a 4.5 40, and has a wicked jump shot, and has an IQ of 180, you can have all of that too. And the idea here is you think that this may not be a reality, but it won't be for our kids, but I can guarantee you our kids' will be running around the soccer field, at 7 and 8 years old with a 6-foot designer-born behemoth that's just running around on them. This is the reality of what we're coming to. So under that backdrop, what do I see as specific University of Washington challenges? And then what do I see as solutions to managing them? Research awards now for faculty are the most competitive as it's ever been in history. And given the current state of our administration, it's very interesting. We know that level of competition is going to get worse in the short term and not better. We've hired more faculty. Now there are more faculty in the country competing for these awards than there ever has been, right? And this is the outcome directly correlated to the Great Recession. So you had the Great Recession. After that time, universities were cut, and then they started to grow again. And the enrollments pattern changed, and you had this huge influx of individuals, primarily in STEM, but also in other disciplines as well. But you had this huge influx of individuals, and now the faculty lines are just now starting to catch up. Well, all of those faculty are competing with a shrinking pool of resources, right? So we got more people going after fewer funds. That's a challenge. There's also increased demands for both service and accountability. And that really stems from the point that I make here at the bottom. Look, flagship universities, especially publics, are expected now to be the drivers of economic growth in their states. The driver of economic growth, the key driver of economic growth, not just a catalyst for that growth. And then there are a whole host of other issues. State support for education will be declining and will continue to decline over the next years relative to the size. The dollar amounts will go up, right? Or hopefully will go up. You can't make that claim everywhere. But because the enrollments and the faculty size and the other entities in these institutions are growing, the relative rate of growth will either be declining or may actually decrease in most institutions across the country. There's deferred maintenance issues, not just at universities across the country, but deferred maintenance issues here, some $2 billion worth at least. And then there's competition for the most promising faculty and staff. That's a real challenge. And as units continue to grow across the country, you're going to start seeing more of those challenges hit home in your individual departments if you haven't seen it already. And then there's finally a changing societal demographics. Starting in 2011, at that point in time, the number of brown, yellow, and black babies had a greater number of them being born than white babies in this country, signifying a significant demographic shift. It's been that way ever since. That demographic shift is sending ripples and shock waves through many in our political establishment. That's what I actually think what we're dealing with today. And I can talk about that in greater detail in the Q&A session, process. My philosophy on 21st century education. What should that look like? So to survive and thrive in the 21st century, here are the things that make up my makeup. And here are the areas that I feel that I have something to offer and give. At the end of the day, it's partner or perish, right? When you're in a situation where you don't have enough resources to handle the burdens that are placed upon you, right? Where you don't have, where you have significant challenges and some of those fiscal coming before you, you need to partner. And coming up with partnerships, not just from industry, but also from what we call NGOs and non-government organizations and other entities and other academic partners, other universities, makes sense in this environment more so than ever in our history. I'm an activist leader. I didn't get into this business because I'm trying to fulfill a projection. I came into this business to affect change. And it was specifically because of what I saw needed to happen when I was a student and when I experienced as a student going through the ranks at an engineering program in the South. And so I consider myself a partner with you in whatever it is we're going through. I'm an avid believer that change is required. Let me put this in perspective. There will be some institutions 20 years from now that are here today that will not be here 20 years from now. And that's not what I'm saying. I can point you to at least 3 studies that highlight this specifically. Some institutions will go away. Now, this institution's not going anywhere. That's not my point. But my point is that those entities that fail to change, that fail to adapt, are going to have hard times in front of them, and some may not make it. That's the reality. I'm a strategic doer. I believe in getting things done, but getting things done from the perspective of strategy. My management style is collaboration, aggressively. I believe that that individuals should collaborate, and I try to engage people to help them do that. And at the end of the day, I'm an avid believer in experiential learning, and experiential learning for all disciplines and all majors. Our students learn most when they have to take what they've learned in the classroom and apply it to real-world problems. We want them solving real-world problems when they get out. Why not have them solve real-world problems when they get in? And there are reasons. I'm going to highlight to you some of the outcomes of that when we do this. So here are the possible solutions. Again, I can't give you specific solutions for your programs. I can tell you some things that I think will fundamentally be a part of what will be the solutions for an academic institution like this one. The first I've already kind of touched base upon a little bit is partner or perish. Strong partnerships are going to be instrumental. Embrace disruption and disrupt the educational paradigm. And I'm going to highlight to you what that actually looks like. Explore and adopt innovative fiscal options. I'll touch base on that a little bit. And then create new innovators. And so partnerships, in my opinion, should exist between university, industry, and K-14. You notice I say K-14 because community colleges are an ample part of this. It's great that with the Bothell campus and with the Tacoma campus, there's already a strong lineage and connection to community colleges here. They're going to be an integral part of our solution going forward. It's a big deal. In California, what we've done is it's mandated that for every 2 students, new first quarter freshmen that enter into the University of California, there must be 1 transfer student. That's a mandated law backed up by real dollars. If you don't do it, you don't get the money. And so it's a really big deal for us. Industry needs our graduates. I don't have to tell you all that here. Graduates, people who graduate from here, especially in certain majors, tend to have ample job opportunities. But I will tell you that we're getting ready to go through a significant job crisis in the country. The data highlights it. Most of our large corporations have a working age of their population of about 55 years old. And right now, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8,000 to 10,000 people a day are turning 65. So we're getting ready to have a major a challenge when people start to move out of the workforce and just not having enough people in the workforce to replace them. This will be an issue. And so industry will come to the table to develop integrative programs with universities who can help meet that challenge, okay? When I say disrupt the educational paradigm, it's going to happen. It is happening. I know that some of that is happening here, not as much as what I see at other institutions, mind you, but I know that it is happening. And the idea here is that you have relatively common kinds of things now with online learning, instructional kinds of videos and those kinds of things that are placed online. You're going to see this disruption of education run the whole paradigm from instructional videos to full automated online engagements where assessment even is done by computer. And I'm not talking about the bubble sheets where you fill in, A, B, C, D, E, A. I'm talking about computers with the ability to read handwritten text, decipher that text, and analyze it. There is an active areas of research in that space happening currently, and it's only going to continue to get better. We're in the very, very early stages, first, second, third inning of that now, but you're going to see more of that in our future. Innovative fiscal solutions. And they go from tuition management. I can tell you that the in-state tuition at this institution is among the very best and the lowest of institutions on the West Coast, right? And of public institutions in general. It is below average and below average significantly. Let me put it to you in perspective. In California, our in-state tuition is right near $15,000 for our tuition and fees. And so you're a little less than 11,000 now or somewhere in that ballpark. When you balance that out, it's 40% greater in our state. The out-of-state tuition, however, here is actually higher than in the state of California, and significantly so, by the way. And so managing that tuition is going to be something that has to be done and has to be looked at. I know hiking tuition is a challenge, but differential tuition for certain majors is something that we should think about and consider. Self-supporting programs that serve the community, but that also are revenue generating and are also important. Let me stop there for a second, because sometimes we look at self-supporting programs as money-generating entities, and they actually do generate money, or they're supposed to if they operate properly. But let me step back for a moment and highlight, look, the era of states providing large amounts of support to academic institutions to run their enterprise, right? That era is declining and declining dramatically. We can no longer expect that the state will provide enough support for us to operate our academic programs at the same level in which we've operated them in the past. That is just not a reality, and it's not a reality for two reasons. Number one, many of the states can't afford it, right? In at least 25 states, the largest employer in 25 states is the flagship academic institution. The government just can't afford it. And number two, there is an overwhelming sentiment amongst many public officials that I don't prescribe to or agree with, by the way, but it is there, and I understand it, that somehow we're just not efficient enough, right? That we're bloated, right? That we waste money. And as long as that perception persists, budgets are going to be tight, declining in some cases, but definitely tight and not growing in others. Tuitions are going to be hard to increase, right? Unless you start to get creative with this. So you got two choices, or three choices in my opinion. Either you have to reduce programs, right? Or we have to have other sources of new revenues coming into the institutions. So two of the items here, three of the items here actually focus on those revenue generating entities. Self-supporting programs that support the community and serve the communities are actually, and at least from the way we do them in California, generate a lot of corporate support. So we started these programs, we charge the community, and then we elicit corporate support in order to actually bankroll and fund them, and then we use those programs to support staff and even provide faculty support. They're working beautifully for us. Revenue generating degree and certificate programs. I know you do a lot of this already in continuing education. I will tell you that this is an area that can be expanded, and it should happen in almost every single school, okay? And then the last one, which is the most controversial, is commoditization of university assets. Now, I'm not telling you to do any of these, so that's not what my point here. My point here is to say that we really have to get beyond the classic state support of instruction model, and these are some ways to do it. And what do I mean when they say commoditization of university assets? I can tell you the story of an institution that recently, just within the last 3 years, took a look at everything that was essential. They said, okay, educating our students at the undergraduate and graduate areas are essential. And then they said, what kind of things may or may not be essential? Well, they took a look at parking. They said, our faculty need to park, our staff need to park, but should we be running that endeavor? Could industry run that endeavor for us, and could they do it more efficiently than what we do? And their belief was no. And so they commoditized that asset. They securitized it, had a company, group of consortium of companies pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $700 million for the right to manage the parking assets of the campus. And this is a large public, just like the institution you have here, and then use that money and funnel that resources back into its academic programs and use it to support its mission. These are some of the things that institutions are thinking about. And so this institution has to go through a notion of thinking about those here. And then next is we gotta, in terms of in changing the way in which we create innovators, we gotta get industry involved very often in what we do in our academic and scholarly pursuits, right? And that means having more co-located industry and university partnerships whenever possible. This up top, this is the basic flow chart of how research flows in our institutions. You go from basic research to a translational research model, and then from there, companies may pick it up at the translational stage, and they develop products, and then they commercialize those products. I'm not saying that the university should get into business, although we can do some of that, of being a commercializing entity, but some universities do quite well there. But what I am saying is that the basic and translational research should have industry input once that research is produced in order to tell our faculty what are some of the directions that you can go that will make this more viable for us on the back end. And just that little tweak can have tremendous effects on the outcome of research programs in academics. And then finally here, we have to incorporate opportunities for undergraduates in entrepreneurship and IP development all throughout the process. Undergraduates should be engaged in the development and starting of companies from day one. And why is that the case? Well, it goes back to the competition and many of the items that I highlighted to you earlier. When many of us graduated from schools, we were competing against students from University of Oregon, from Cal State Northridge, from UCLA, competing against students from all over the country, but you were competing against students from America. Now, there's no such thing as a major U.S. company anymore. They source globally. They bring those sources from all over the planet, and those students are truly, truly competing against students from all over the world. And what's the outcome? There may not actually be an opportunity for that student, even in the right major, even with a high GPA. There may not be an opportunity for that student when they graduate. So they need to be taught to make one. They need to learn how to make those opportunities for themselves when those opportunities don't exist. And when our students are shown to do that, they actually do quite well. If I were to ask you, what do all these great companies have in common? All started by students, okay. But if you look at them all, there's some tech companies in there and the like. I can see where people will go there. But the founders were all in their teens and 20s. Look, the foundation of much of what we are engaged, the companies that you all engage right here, the foundation of those companies were founded by people in their teens and 20s. Well, that's right in the sweet spot of our graduates. So shouldn't we then be preparing them? This is the previous generation. Isn't more expected of those that are coming out of our institutions today? Why Greg Washington? And this is my get off the stage slide. Look, I've done reasonably well in the positions that I've had up to this point. And I'm a believer in public institutions. I think that they hold a unique place in the direction of our country. Abraham Lincoln was a consequential president, not just for the Emancipation Proclamation, but primarily for the Morrill Act that actually created the land grant and public institution framework that we hold so near and dear to this day. And I'm telling you that there's a greater responsibility in that entity, and I believe in that. And my track record of success is one that I've listed some things there. I won't go into them in significant detail. But I see myself as a catalyst and as a collaborator and as a partner. And on that note, I just want to thank you all for giving me the time to talk with you today.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm just going to click one thing here. So we have time for some questions to be presented. Does anyone like to pose the first one? I have some wandering mics over here. Oh, we got one right here.
Thank you. I'm Gunther Schmittens from the Scandinavian Studies Department. Thank you for an exciting and I'd say inspiring presentation. One of the programs that you didn't mention was international studies and foreign language education. We've been a powerhouse, a national and international powerhouse in both those areas for 100 years or more. My question to you is, I noticed the two cities you had were almost all of them were non-English speaking cities, the examples of developing global powers. Say, if you're provost, where in 5 years from now, where do you see foreign language education at this university at a time of dropping foreign language enrollments?
No, look, I'm going to tell you, this is an area that is very, very important to me, and here's why. So in my previous job at the University of California, Irvine, we established a joint program with the humanities where you get a joint degree in engineering in a foreign language with one additional year of study. And the reason we did that was because was twofold. 77% of our graduates today will have a foreign experience sometime in their career. That is just the reality of working in a globally flat society where companies don't truly have a home. Okay, and so if you're going to go work and be a part of a country or a company in a different country, wouldn't it help if you understood the language and understood the culture, right? Wouldn't you be a better and a stronger graduate, right? If you understood the language and understood the culture. Look, I've done everything that I can do, stopping short of requiring foreign language competency for engineers. And these are engineers, okay? Okay, in terms of doing that at the University of California, Irvine. And so it is just a tremendously important, especially in today's time. Conflict is significant, and conflict ultimately highly correlates to lack of communication, and you can't communicate without language. It's just that important.
Thank you.
Okay, right there in the center.
Hi, I'm Mike Brown from Earth and Space Sciences, and I have to say your portfolio of accomplishments and initiatives is impressive, but I'd like to get a sense of the top-down versus bottom-up style of accomplishing those things. And I can pick several things, but one of them is in diversity at Irvine. You say you 16 out of 31 appointments in underrepresented groups when you came there. And so how do you do that from a higher level position to get faculty or other groups to do it? Are you counting on them, or are you pushing from the top?
So it's both. And let me make sure I'm clear. Look, I can't accomplish anything without the engagement and interaction with the faculty and staff at the institutions. But there are some things you can do from a top-down perspective. And let me this is one I can put specifically into context for you. When you send me candidate lists and they're not diverse, I just send them back. It's not diverse enough, right? That's one. I've had to do that. On more of the collaborative side, I've said, okay, you have two candidates, one male, one female, or one male, one URM, and the male candidate is the number one candidate. The female candidate or the URM candidate is second or third. Okay. What about if I come up with the money for both positions? Could you hire both? So those are some of the kinds of things you do in order to get those numbers, right? And I will tell you that this is an area that doesn't happen without leadership. There's just no other way around it. I can point to countless examples. there has to be a top-down component, especially in certain disciplines, right? There are three areas where this is the biggest challenge statistically from the numbers. I've looked at the numbers across all majors at an institution are philosophy, believe it or not, physics, and engineering. Those three disciplines, and it's some disciplines in engineering, some of them actually don't, right? But those three general areas have the hardest time finding a diverse population in terms of the amount of pool that's available. Everybody else, there's actually significant pools there. And so we just have to be coaxed in terms of finding them.
All right. The back row.
Hi, Marissa Ingalls from the Office of State Relations. So you mentioned state legislators and competing resources, we'll say, a couple times in your talk. So I wanted to ask, what experience have you had engaging with state legislators? I will also say that a few years ago, we did see significant investment by our Washington state legislators in higher education with the first ever reduction in state tuition. So this is something that's paramount to my job in particular. But it would be great to hear about your experience.
Oh yeah, this is a good question. So in Ohio, I worked closely with both Senator Voinovich at the time and so we worked with Senator Voinovich in the establishment of nuclear energy as the next generation of energy production in the state. And in Ohio, we had a huge facility that actually generated the components that were used in nuclear power plants. And so I worked with him very, very closely to lead and grow that effort. And again, in Ohio, I worked with Senator Sherrod Brown, who's still there to really focus on this whole idea when President Obama was elected to focus on the development of a clean energy research center. So the legislation was adopted but not appropriated, and that legislation was led by Sherrod Brown. I worked with him so closely that we were literally sitting down with the staffers writing some of that legislation. So just to put it to you in that context. In California, I lead the coalition of engineering deans and all of the lobbying efforts to all of our representatives throughout the state. And so I work with all of the legislative assistants at the individual campuses throughout the state related to engineering topics and helping engage in that space. You know, California has a specific rule against earmarks and some other types of congressionally directed funding and support. So we weren't able to do some of those things that I did in Ohio as much, but we definitely were impactful in terms of engaging our elected officials as it relates to issues that were critical and of critical importance to engineering and to the discipline. So I have some experience in the space.
I saw a hand down here earlier.
Good afternoon. I'm Jill McKinstry, a retired librarian from the university and part of your unprecedented global challenge, aging population.
Yes.
So thank you for listing that.
Well, I'm part of that too.
Great. I'm also currently serving as the president of the University of Washington Retirement Association. And I wanted to ask your view on the role of retirees in an institution.
Oh, this is a great question. And I will tell you that now more than ever, first of all, did you say you retired or you haven't retired?
I'm retired.
You're retired, but you're here. This is the thing. The concept of retirement is one that we really have to redefine. And the rationale is very simple. I meet so many people who are quote unquote retired, but are working harder now than they ever have in their careers. And that's not by accident. We actually need them. And if we didn't have those individuals working, not just in academic institutions, but in industry all over, if we didn't have those individuals, we would be feeling the brunt of the crisis that I spoke to you about earlier. You would be feeling the brunt of that crisis today. It's the fact that people are delaying their exit from the workforce that's actually sustaining us, okay? And in addition to that, we're going to need retirees to come back and educate those of us who won't be ready for the challenges that are in front. The country is getting ready to lose a significant amount of experience and experiential knowledge over the next 5 to 10 years. And some of that knowledge can't be learned in a book. It has to be learned by doing. So there's going to be concerted efforts all over the place to re-engage. As a campus like this one, finding creative ways to re-engage individuals who retire, not just from the university, but also from the local industry around here, can have tremendous effect, not just on the education of our students, but also in the K-12 communities as well. So we have a number of partnerships that we started in California. One of them is called OC STEM, where we actually do take retirees and, for lack of a better term, repurpose them back. We repurpose them back into the K-12 arena to help to help be impactful with helping young ones learn STEM-related disciplines. So I think I don't think that many of us are going to truly retire in the future. I think our jobs are just going to change. We're going to stop formal work, and then we're going to work on the kinds of things we just love doing.
Hi, welcome to the University of Washington. I'm Joe James. I'm a faculty member in the Information School. 2 questions. 1, what do you do for fun? And second, why do you want to be a provost?
Interesting. Okay, I'll answer the first question. I'll answer both. Look, for fun, I'm a outdoors kind of guy, and so I believe in exercise and working out. I'm prior military, and so fitness and being a part of that has always been a part of my life. And so I spent a lot of time on that side of the house. I'm a big movie guy, and so I love movies. I love watching them. I also love plays and jazz music. It was one of the things that was pretty attractive here, just learning that there is a significant jazz scene here in Seattle. And so in my spare time, I find, opportunities. Why would I want to be a provost? I actually didn't want to be a provost, to be honest with you. The search firm reached out to me, and after I put them off and ignored them for a few days, and then told them no, and then he said, no, you need to. I took a look at the institution. They sent me a prospectus, and I looked at that prospectus, and I said, this is really interesting. A couple of things just jumped out at me. Number one, how profound the institution was and how successful the institution has been in research. And then the whole community engagement piece, how connected the community was to the institution, right? When you hear of a $5 billion campaign, that's attached to Harvard. That's attached to Princeton. That's not attached to a large public. Definitely not attached to a large public located where you're actually located. Look, I'm from California, right? And so people would get upset at that. I mean, so how come they can do that and we can't? It's a significant issue. And so those really piqued my interest. And then I continue to read where it said the shared collective vision of the institution is to be number one, the number one institution in the world as relates to impact. right? And when you look at that, that's a profound statement. Because, so I looked at the word collective, and I looked at the word number one. That meant that there was some engagement amongst the individuals to come to that conclusion. And that also meant that you had to earnestly believe that you could get there. Not every institution who claims to be number one can get there. I use the example all the time, right? The Indianapolis Colts are not going to win the Super Bowl, right? But they started the season probably thinking they could. They realized this Sunday that they probably won't, right? And the point here being is that not everyone has a legitimate chance, but this institution actually does. And so those things attracted me to the institution. You know, for me, the job of being a provost is one that's in somewhat of a progression of where I am in my career currently, and things are going really well for me in California. I'm not necessarily looking to leave, but I think there's something special going on here, and I was sold on it when I looked at the search committee for the position. If you look at the makeup of the individuals and who they are, what their accolades are and what they're doing, and you look at the fact that the university put these individuals in charge of making its most important decision this year, and you look at the diversity of that cohort, then you understand that leadership here is really serious and committed. And those things attracted me significantly. And to be honest with you, that's why I'm here.
All right, thank you. Is there one last question? Got one right down here. I'll have your chance tomorrow.
So,
All right, Mary Pat Windroff from biology.
No, way in the back. Okay.
You okay? No?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. So you talked about experiential learning. Could you explain a little bit more by what you mean about that?
Right.
And then what is the provost's role in encouraging and supporting faculty as they change their teaching styles?
Could you share with us what part of the university you're from?
Biology. I'm faculty in biology.
Okay, thank you.
So let me put it in perspective from a biological standpoint. We tend to teach students theory, we teach them procedure, we teach them process in disciplines like yours and in mine. Taking those procedures, processes, and taking that and then applying it to a real world problem. What do I mean when I say real world problem? Maybe instead of making up the problems yourself, the faculty get problems from their collaborators and counterparts in industry. Here's a small part of a big problem that we're working on at this company. And then you give that to the group of students and let the students noodle on that. And they may not come up with an answer, but sometimes the process of learning and the process of understanding and coming to an answer is much more valuable than the answer itself. Oftentimes, that is the case. And so that's an example of experiential learning at work in terms of what you do. But it runs every discipline, right? And you know, whether you're in sociology or criminology, there are real problems that our that can be given to our students to, even if it's only a paper study, to look at and try to solve. And those real problems then add meaning to why they chose those disciplines in the first place.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure hearing from you today. Good job. All right. I just want to thank all of you as well for making the time to join us today. Thanks for your participation. We look forward to seeing you at future forums. And just wanted to alert you to the fact you'll be receiving a survey in the next few days through which you can provide your feedback, or you're always free to provide feedback at the following email address. And we look forward to your continued participation in the process. All right. Thanks very much.